Hi, everyone. I'm back. It's about a week after my last video to give you an update on how the progress of this new choral piece is coming along. I got a decent amount of time to work on it this week, um, and so I want to share what has changed and what I'm thinking about right now. So here is the score at the moment. So the beginning part here, the introduction, I'm thinking about it as. Um, I haven't changed at all. But what I need to do with this is I want to try out different progressions of chords. So the parameters I've sort of set for myself here is that I want to use just simple major and minor chords, and I want to keep it all diatonic, which means staying within the key of F major here. No added sharps or flats or naturals or anything like that. Um, And then the overlap between the two chords, I want to experiment with because different chords will have different amount of notes overlapping in different intervals in them. So for instance, this is an F major chord, and then this is a D minor chord. Those share actually two of their three pitches together. So they only have one new um, pitch added in the second chord. So that's a relatively um, it doesn't create as much dissonance between the two chords. In fact, all of these chords are related by that. The bass is related by third, but I can have chords that are related by second or by fourth as well. And so I want to evaluate and try out those because then they'll have less overlap. For instance, chords that are related by a second, triads that are related by a second. So an F major chord and a G minor chord, for instance, where it steps up by one step, would have no overlapping pitches, and there would be much more dissonance in it. So I want to experiment with that and figure out what is the right amount. Do I want to change how much they overlap and interact and the different options for that? So I still need to do that. I didn't do any of that this week. Um, I did work on what will happen after the introduction section, which will probably be longer than this. I think I might do double this length. And again, I'm looking for 4 to 6 minutes long. So this is already, let me just take a look on the counter. According to the metronome mark, 40 seconds. So doing twice the length would be about 1 minute 20. Um, and that sort of works, having the middle section maybe be about 2 minutes, and then um, a kind of mirror image, a bookend of a similar sort of ending section as the beginning. Now I worked on this. This is fairly happy with what I came up with here. And I'm thinking that the words, so at the beginning, I'm going to do just alternating the syllables of chorus angelorum. So each the word gets passed between the two choirs overlapping. So it actually can be really hard to understand the words, but I like the vowel sounds you get there. And then here it's going to be the plan is eternal rest, which is if we go to the text here, the final words um, of the text. I'm leaning towards leaving out the Lazarus thing here, and even maybe leaving out the holy city of Jerusalem and just having, may the angels lead you into paradise, may the martyrs receive you at your arrival, may choirs of angels receive you. I love that. Yeah, the image of choirs of angels. That's sort of like the driving force of this, and what I want to name it after, which is the Latin of it, Chorus Angelorum. Um, I've also been thinking about, so this English translation, I don't even know where it comes from. It's kind of maybe just a standard one. There's no source for this on Wikipedia here. Um, it says here, for instance, there's modern variations of this that have been written by some people. These are under copyright though. So if I wanted to use those, I'd have to ask permission, which could take a long time and more time than we have anyways. So I've just been thinking about do I want to make any changes to this text as I go along? Like, may the angels lead you? Like, should I take out the? May angels lead you? May, like, for instance, one of them is flights of angels, which is a kind of um, interesting term. Is that what it is for a group of angels, like a population of angels, like a murder of crows or whatever? I don't know. May scores of angels, I've been thinking about that. And whether I want to adjust any of those words in the English translation, because I could do that if it's assuming this is just public domain and I can do whatever I want with it. So I haven't, I've been, I think I'm going to kind of do that if I do it at all as I go with the music and having this sort of back and forth with it instead of setting the text exactly and then having the music fit it. Um, I like to have this sort where they can sort of have a push and pull between them, um, which I find kind of really interesting. So getting back to here, um, the relationship between these chords. So the way I thought about this, first, I'm thinking about the um, overall, it's going to sort of come down in register, getting lower and lower and lower. I'm also using inverted chords in here a bit too. It's essentially, for the most part, the same two chords alternating. So choir one does always pretty much an F major chord, although it changes inversion, it changes voicing, um, which parts, which vocal parts get what notes of the chord. And choir one has essentially the same chord. There's one different note between some of them, but I like how those two chords alternate and overlap from each other. Um, and if you notice here, the highest note, and then goes down to B flat, A, G, F, G, C, B flat, A. So it's coming down from these heights, which also ties in for my idea for the climax, which I'll talk about in just a second. Um, but let me give you a sense of, so I sort of just cut and paste the over, I mean, we talked last time about how I had to figure out and try all these different ways for the timing and how much the chords would overlap. So I think I'm going to keep that here, and it's really just changing the chords. Although I might change some of the dynamics too. They might not get so loud. But for right now, I just sort of cut and paste that and change the notes. Um, and then ending on this last chord, low for one, and then the second chorus, or it's actually second chorus is the first one. The first chorus is the higher, adding notes to that chord above. Um, and so, yeah, on the words eternal rest is what I'm thinking about here. Although I realized I have to figure out, and I don't know any examples of pieces that do this. How would I notate one word in multiple syllables being passed between different voices? Because the way you do multiple, you notate multiple syllables is by putting a hyphen in between. So into, that hyphen shows that that's still the same word. It's not the word in and to, but it's a single word, right? And then you have this underscore. I'll zoom in so you can see this better. The underscore means this is the last syllable and it's being sustained on more notes. But how do I get in and show that it is part of a longer word, but then the two come, for instance, down here in the altos? I don't know how to do that in this music notation software. This is Dorico, and I'm still fairly new to Dorico. I got it last year and still learning a lot about it. But even just in general, I don't know if I've seen any examples of pieces that do that. How do I make it clear that it's not just in and to, or an and gels? Those are very different words than angels, and gels. They're both words themselves, those syllables, right? Um, so I have to figure out how to notate that to make it clear. Um, anyways, let me play the ending section here as I have it in this draft form, so you can get a sense supposed to sound. Yeah, so listening to this now, I think I'm definitely gonna adjust the dynamics to not get to forte. I might actually um make it go a little quicker too. I might shorten the length of these chords too a little bit. Um, have a little less overlap. I think the overlap in this might be a little too long. So I'm going to play around with that. And then let me show you the what I've my idea for the climax here. So the middle section that has the text. Well, actually, so I've done a little work on this too, um, of having these chords. It's the same sort of idea as here, overlapping and alternating um, between the two choirs on different harmonies. Um, although I'm still, yeah, thinking about how do I want to change the text? Do I want to keep it as the in that standard sort of English translation, or do I want to adjust it to fit my musical ideas a little bit? Um, but here's what I have at least now. Same tempo right now. That might change. I've changed the meter though to 3/4 instead of 4/4. Um, and I've just put in everyone would be saying these words, but I've only put it just for now in draft form in the sopranos. So may the angels lead you into paradise. And then I think having a repeat of paradise here in the second choir, and then moving on to the next line. Um, yeah, let me give you a sense of how this is supposed to sound right now-ish. There's no dynamics or anything like that, and it's very sort of rough form, but and so I'm not quite sure I'm happy with the timing of how long each of these phrases goes for, how long they overlap. I might shorten the overlapping chord. I think I'm going to do in terms of balance dynamically, have the sustained chords be softer than the moving parts. Um, so you still get overlap, but you can tell what's sort of in the foreground and what's more prominent. And then for the climax, it's going to build up to um, yeah, some repetitions of eternal rest. And here, having everyone sort of in a higher register. One of the things, the natural things about the human voice is when we're singing, we tend to, the lower we get in a really low register, we tend to naturally be softer, our voice. And as we go into a really high register, we tend to naturally be louder, and it's really hard to sing soft. Of course, trained singers work on balancing that out. Um, but here I'm sort of taking advantage of that natural tendency. So the sopranos up here, this is sort of going to be the one moment where the two choirs kind of work as a single choir together, moving and singing the words at the same time, as an eight-part choir, rather than two choirs that are alternating or in opposition to one another. So on these words, eternal rest, although I might actually switch it if we keep it in 3/4 right here. The lexical accent when you say the word eternal is on the second syllable, eternal, right? So it can make sense having it on the downbeat and having the E, the first syllable, happen before. So one, two, eternal rest, eternal rest. So you feel more of a weight on those. We naturally feel those on downbeats at the beginning of measures. So having it line up like that could make sense, but I'm also thinking it might make sense to have the E, the first syllable of eternal, on the downbeat. Eternal rest. Eternal rest. I'm still not sure which one I like for yet. But what I think I do like here is what I have for the chords and the voicing here. These moving voices, some of the notes in the chords stay the same and some move in these parallel thirds, and you get some interesting and beautiful dissonances that emerge from this. For instance, the tenors holding this F here, while these tenors start out that F but move to the E, so you get the E against the F, which is a half step. Plus above that, the altos here move down to the G, so you get the E, F, G all happening at the same time and get this cluster, which adds this tension and dissonance that you'll hear in here. So having this, like these two bars, I think repeating a couple times, but gradually getting lower in register, and then finally coming to a rest in a middle sort of register here before then going into the last section that I showed you here. So here's what this climactic loud, it's going to be nice, loud, the loudest part of the piece, of course. And then I've also been thinking about what's going to precede this. And I think I might have maybe the only time I have some chromaticism, which is using notes outside of the key of F major here to heighten the sense of arrival at this climactic moment and adding more tension to it. So I'm thinking about that. So that's where this is right now. I feel like writing a piece, it's always like a kind of jigsaw puzzle. Actually, I've been doing some jigsaw puzzles with my son. He hasn't been helping very much. He's almost 4, but he helps a little bit. And figuring out like, okay, what is this going to look like? I mean, in the jigsaw puzzle, I know what it's going to look like in a way, right? Of course, and I'm just trying to figure out how it all fits together. But here, I'm sort of figuring out, I get these pieces and I start connecting a few of these things together, but I still have to figure out some of the other puzzle pieces and how this is going to connect exactly to this, and how this is going to connect to that, and how it's all going to get from the beginning to the end and see it as the whole picture. It's a very sort of fun and exciting and also worrisome, like process when you don't know what to do and you don't know the way forward. For instance, earlier on this week, when I started working on this after I did my last video, I sort of felt like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know, like, is this like I was just trying things out and nothing was kind of working. And then that's when those doubts creep in of like, can I really make this? Am I going to be able to figure this out? Am I going to make it work in a way that I find satisfying, musically satisfying, artistically, something that I'm proud of? I mean, I've done enough composing where I can just sit down and toss something off and it'll sound okay. And I know because I have all these tricks and ways of like the things that I know can work. But I don't want to do that because I'm not going to be proud of it. I'm not going to feel like I've made my best work and I've made something that's very unique. Um, and so figuring out that path, what it's going to look like, and feeling like I'm really striving for something, that's the really hard thing about creativity. Um, Not just treading over ground that you've already tread on before, um, but doing something that's new and feels new to me. Um, that's the exciting part, and that's the really challenging part. So